So, good morning, sir. I am Omar Gramor. I'm the first member to report about our task in our group, which is the SQL triggers. So, first, what is SQL triggers? Next slide, please. SQL triggers is a database object which fires when an event occurs in database. And also, we can execute a SQL query that will do something in a database when a change occurs on a database table, such as a record is inserted or updated or deleted. For example, a trigger can be set on a record insert in a database table, just like what I have said earlier. In introduction to triggers, stored procedures and triggers within a database are similar constructs. They can both perform the same SQL statements. The only difference is that a stored procedure has to be executed by the system as the result of an event. Uh, Next slide, please. Next slide po. So, no, tong isa. So, why use SQL triggers? Because a trigger resides in the database and anyone who has the required privilege can use it. A trigger lets you write a set of SQL statements that multiple applications can use. And also, it lets you avoid redundant code when multiple programs need to perform the same database operation. So, there are three groups of SQL triggers, which are the DML, stands for Data Manipulation Language Triggers, DDL, the Data Definition Language Triggers, and the Logon Triggers. In data manipulation language, triggers has three types, which are the insert trigger, delete trigger, and update trigger.
Mar, okay na ka?
Uh,
Mag-next na? Or
Mura man ako, 1 to 6 slides na siya. Ako lang gipaisa pa nun.
okay. So, wala kay kuan ka ng example there is sa DDL o logon triggers.
Wala siya. Wala ko yung nakuha nga example about sa duha.
Sige lang. Sige. Ang ba na may clarification sa kuan. Wala man.
Wala po.
Wala po ko.
Thank you kayo. Okay, mag-proceed
Thank
ka
you.
ni kuan sa to ang next reporter si Nayve. Pag present lang Neil, makakan ka.
Na?
Amin. Let's na.
Let's go. Syntax of trigger and examples. Syntax of triggers goes like this. It starts by a create trigger keyword, the name of your trigger, the before or after keyword, insert or update or delete keyword, and on keyword, and the table name of your database, and for each row or for each column, then the trigger body. Create trigger. These two keywords are used to specify that a trigger block is going to be declared. If it is followed by a trigger name, it specifies the name of the trigger, and trigger name has to be unique and shouldn't repeat. Before and after keyword. This specifies when the trigger will be executed. It tells us the time at which the trigger is initiated. Oh, laga eh. Uy, balik. Saan na to? Right trigger. Insert, update, delete. These are the DML operations and we can use either of them in a given trigger. On table name, we don't need to mention a table name on which the trigger is being applied. Don't forget to use the keyword and also make sure that the selected table is in the database. For level trigger gets executed before or after any column value of a row changes. Column level trigger gets executed before or after the specified column changes. Trigger body. It consists of queries that need to be executed when a trigger is called. And we create sample of trigger. And we create a table first. Create for example, we create a table of students. The student ID, teacher, first name, There we created our table, then we create a trigger to that table. It starts with a create trigger keyword, then the name of your trigger, let's say add 100, so that let's create a trigger that for in every data inserted to the student table, let's add 100 to his marks. Okay. So let's name the trigger add 100, then before we insert data, we will add 100 to we will add 100 to his or her marks before insert on student table. Student plus 100. Let's say create before insert. This is you. Create trigger name. Trigger name before. Ito naman ba create trigger name before insert on student for each row. Ito na ngalan siya, di pwede. Oh, natural dahil di pwede ko ang ngalan. We have created a trigger to the student. Now let's try inserting data to the student table. Insert. First name of the student will be Amiel, then Nayve. We have a mark of 0. Therefore, if we insert this data, this will add 100 to our marks will turn from 0 to 100 because of the trigger. Okay, let's try go. Browse. We got marks instead of 0, we got 100. We got that. Mana?
Nice. May question ato nga koan. Complicated naman ito nga koan. Okay pa ba ang all?
Wala may question?
Sabay.
Yes, sir. Wala.
Mail. Pwede ko
Go,
mga
Jack.
tanong, Mail?
Ay.
Gamay lang niya.
Ako?
Klaro lang, sa
Yes,
katulong presentation. Sa katulong bitong pag-trigger, bitong nimo. Kailangan din siya nga, kanang halain, din siya nga program. Kay katulong bitong nabantayan ako si Mos, diba naghimo, diba nag-program ka sa katong asa to siya nga part, tapos pag-trigger nimo, isalay na po mo siya isalay na po ka nag-code. Ingato siya ang way ato. Dili siya kanang pwede ka lang iusar ng video mo, and then upon running the program, ay usa na lang po
Sa
siya
table
pag
sa Jeff.
ha?
Sa table nga warag
Oh,
gi-store nga data. Lahi naman gud nga data, di ba? Mail ang imong gibuhat nga gi-store nimo. Lahi siya nga
Yan lang.
putakanan.
Dani, nakita ninyo?
Wait lang.
Oh, kana itong mail, kana itong dapat sa may trigger. Kana sa may included mo, kana sa may
Kanang
columns,
kuan
boards,
sa pag-store bitaw mail kanang na new na student.
oh, kana sa diyan nga part.
Dani? Di ba naman
Dili.
na akong table?
Dili. Kaning kuan kanang pag-store nimo sa data ba, di ba? Naghimo ba kag another kuan? Another nga maputangan sa data. Kanang new, kanang student or sa trigger.
Gani? Amo na akong kuan. Kaning database na ako, trigger ang ngalan, then kani student mo na akong table. Student table. So kung mag-create ko kuan bago nga database. Saan to kalimot ko.
Di ba pwede magyapon sa kanang na kanabitong kanang naanay database daan kay pwede magyapon ka mag-create og another gyapon nga database kanya to nga pamaagi auto increment gyapon
Oh,
Lagi.
Okay namin. Salamat, Phil.
Okay. Ikaw na mag-present.
Ako na
Chat.
sige. So, Mil, salamat sa mga presentation. So, again, ako sang share screen ako. Makaroon ninyo?
Yes, Prof.
So, again, this is under the SQL and triggers. So, under the SQL and triggers, we have SQL View. SQL View is a virtual or logical table which is composed of results set of a select query. The database view is similar to the database table, which is consists of row and column. So you can easily retrieve and update the data in the same way with table. So the database view is dynamic because it's not related to the physical schema. The database view is stored as view definition as select statements. So when the tables, which are the source data of a view changes, the data in the view change also. So we have also the SQL view advantages. It's simplify yet complex query. Limited access data to the specific users, and it's also provide extra security, computed column, and backward compatibility. So when creating an SQL view, we have here a syntax. We start with the create view. Again, kaning naka-caps lock ng word is muna itong gamiton sa pag-execute yun dito. So view underscore name ang katong instances na atong gusto pong itaon sa atong database as select columns from table where predicates. So wala na ako nag-include diri sa kanang pag-execute yun sa katong sump ba to or katong gamiton database na to. Okay, nanam ko diri example. Pero guys, correct me if I'm wrong if na ako mga naingon nga dili sakto. So an example diri is create view. Again, muna itong syntax gamiton. Soup underscore orders or katong instance nga naa sa atong database as select supplier underscore ID orders that quantity orders that price from suppliers. So from suppliers muna itong pangalan sa database, and then the inner underscore join orders on suppliers that supplier underscore ID is equals to orders that supplier underscore ID, where supplier underscore name is equals to IBM. No, equal to IBM kung pangalan. So to query, we select, I think pasabot aning kaning asterisk, di ba tanan? Takto ba ko guys?
all.
Tasang to, diba? From soup underscore orders, diba? Min diba kaning soup underscore orders mo siya katong sa sulod din siya sa imong database, diba? Kanang bitong murag nakalain siya ang column sa kan, pero nasa gyud siya sulod sa imong
Sa
database.
table niya.
Kani table kani, diba? So again, so next is updating an SQL view. Create or replace view underscore name as select columns from table where predicates. We have also here an example. Create or replace view soup underscore orders as select. So kani siya, di ba? Atong siyang gina-change. Atong gina-butang as select, di ba? Gagamit ang select dari nga part. Then suppliers underscore ID. Ano sa mga instances na to sulod sa database from suppliers is our database, then inner join orders on supplier ID, then where supplier underscore name is equals to Microsoft. So when dropping an SQL view, we have also here the syntax. We use the syntax drop view underscore name. So we have here an example. Drop view soup underscore orders. So I think that's all. Any more question, guys?
Wala.
Wala yapon.
Wala gyapon? Sige. So I think kung wala na yung questions, let's move on na sa next presenter. I think si Miss Javier na next.
Saba kayo mong manok. Wait lang. Sige, ako is mag-report ko about sa stored routines. Now, what is stored routines? So, first, about sa... Saba kayo manok. First, stored routines kana is stored procedures. Duha man na siya kabuok ang stored procedures and then stored function. Patay ning manok kani. Now, stored procedures are precompiled objects which are compiled for the first time, and its compiled format is saved, which executes whenever it is called. So, it is if you have an SQL query that you write over and over again, you can save it as a stored procedure and then just call it to execute it. So, if naay kuan, like kuan lagi siya, self-explanatory lang siya nga if kuan kanang sa inyong ginakuan i-encode ninyo or sa inyong query kay dili na mo kailangan mag-kuan bitaw execute perminti sa katong query, like pwede ra ninyo siya i-save sa iyahang kuan. Save it as a stored procedure. Naman ni siya syntax. So, muna siya ang syntax niya kaning create procedure, and then ang name sa katong table sa database nga naa sa database nimo, which is ang customer. Then pag i-execute din nimo siya, kana mo din ni ang syntax niya kaning select all customers. So, na syntax ani ay wrong. So, mo ni siya sa UPI. Sa stored functions dito, kanang sa stored functions, it is a function is compiled and executed every time whenever it is called. A functions must return a value and cannot modify the data received as parameters. So, na syntax ani na pag create sa stored function kay based sa available nga database, pag once ma-create na siya, naana dayon na ma-view sa inyo ang SQL workbench ang database sa inyo gi-store. So, ang stored kuan di ay function mo ni siya yung syntax where siya kuan kanang usual nga atong ginakuan bitaw nga query before sa katong gipakuan ni sir sa data camp, medyo di atong ginakuan perminti. Then pag i-execute din nimo siya or i-run nimo ni nga code kay pwede niya ang iyang kuan. So kay select man nato or tawag man nato ang customer name, then ang customer level, credit limit, pupud ang iyang ipagawas gikan sa customers nga database. So next is unsay kalahian sa stored function o stored procedure. Sa stored function, the function must return a value, pero sa stored procedure kay optional lang siya. So optional siya kay even if ang procedure kay mo return siya og 0 nga value or naa siya number nga value. So the function can have only input parameters for it, whereas sa procedure kay you can have input or output parameters. Then functions can be called from procedure, pero sa procedure dili ni mo ma-call gikan sa function. So next is stored procedures. Now, the following select statement returns all rows in the table customers from the sample database. So, again, mo to siya ang kuan gyapon same sa kaganiha nga query. Ay lang siya og kuan database. So, when you use MySQL Workbench or MySQL Shell to issue the query for MySQL server, the MySQL processes the query and returns the result test. So, wala na siya akong report, guys. Thank you kaayo. Wala, may pauta na. Mag-proceed na ta. Okay naman to.
Okay na, Les.
O ba? Storya mo ba?
Okay kayo.
Sabot-sabot sa maganto kay magod ka naman magod to ang natun-an sa data camp bitaw if nakabuhat mo. I think nakabuhat man tanan. Kay sige man to siya ginano god. Sunod kay si Bernasor.
Sige. Ako lang kay ang advantage and disadvantage since istorya naman ni Leslie ang kon sa ang stored procedure. So basically again stored procedure is just a recursive stored procedure, and let's go for the advantages and disadvantages. So in advantages, increased performance of application, reduces the traffic between application and database server, reusable and transparent to any application which wants to use it, and also secured. Disadvantages: make the database server high load in both memory and processor, only contain declarative SQL, difficult to debug, not easy to write and maintain. And that's it for the advantages and disadvantages. Thank you guys.
Kuan lang siya inline sa akong
Oh,
Sana-
mora niya ako.
Lagi inline ra sa ako ang Sige. Sunod kay si Prince Dadubo.
Yo. Pwede. So, good day everyone. My name is Prince Dadubo and I'm here to discuss about variables in stored procedures. When we talk about variable, a variable is a named data object whose value can change during the stored procedure execution. You typically use variables in stored procedures to hold immediate results, and these variables are local to the stored procedures. In variables in stored procedures, like for this example, we can define a variable named total sale with the data type int and the default value is 0. But before using a variable, you must declare it. Next is assigning variables. Once a variable is declared, it is ready to use. To assign a variable a value, then you use the set statement, like for this example, that we can see the total count of variables value is 10. In addition to the set statement, we can use the select into statement to assign the result of a query to a variable as shown in the following example. In this example, we can see that we declare a variable total products and initialize its value to 0. Then we use the select also into statement to assign the variable total products with the total products in the products of database table. So that is all mine. Thank you. Sunod.
Oh, yapon.
Okay.
Doang day mo siya ba?
Kita ya.
Kita.
So kang prints kaniya is stored procedure variable. So ang ako kay parameter. So the parameter makes the stored procedure more flexible and useful. So a parameter has one of three modes. These are in, out, in, out. So in parameter, in is the default mode. When you define an in parameter, a stored procedure, the calling program has to pass an argument to the stored procedure. In addition, the value of an in parameter is protected. It means that even the value of the in parameter is changed inside the stored procedure, its original value is retained after the stored procedure ends. In other words, the stored procedure only works on a copy of the in parameter. So out parameter, the value of an out parameter can be changed inside the stored procedure and its new value is passed back to the calling program. So stored procedure in out stored procedure cannot access the initial of the out parameter when it starts. In out parameter, an in out parameter is combination of an in and out parameters. So basically, it means in and out is just a combination of this in out parameter. So next is this is the syntax. So defining a parameter in a stored procedure is as follows. So mode, parameter name, parameter type, and parameter size, and the keyword in, out, and in out, parameter name, and the data type, and the length. That's it. Wala guys, thank you.
Thank you kayo, Chap. Sunod kay si PJay. Minot saya ang report.
So I'm gonna discuss about defining a parameter. So parameter example in. So here's the example of codes that I've executed in MySQL Workbench. The candidate party is the in parameter of the stored procedure. Suppose that you want to find parties which is a Democratic or a Republican. You need to pass an argument, Democratic or Republican, to the stored procedure as shown in the following query. So we name our created procedure as a get candidate by party and use the in function for our primary parameter named candidate party varchar 255. So let's begin. We use select asterisk or to select all from our data candidate where party is equals to candidate party. Our parameter because we're looking for candidates party and the code was successfully executed. So we use the call function to our created procedure named get candidate by party and close open parenthesis Democratic because we're looking for Democratic candidates party. Here it shows us the result of candidates by Democratic parties or partidos. So parameter example out. Below is the example code. The stored procedure get order count by status has two parameters. Order status is the in parameter specifies the status of an order to return. Total is the out parameters that stores the number of orders in a specific status. To find the number of orders that already shipped, you call get order count by status and pass the order status as a ship, and also pass a session variable at total to receive the return value. This is the executed code from MySQL. Same thing, we create a procedure named get order by status. In function, order status our first parameter, varchar 25. Out function for our second parameter named total and value. So let's begin. Select count status because we're looking for status, and into total. So from sales data, sample our data where status is equals our first parameter order status. Here we use a function called get orders count by status and created procedure to look for ship status and to pass the return value to our second parameter total. So we use select function at total. You can see it showed a result of a ship status for 2617. And also here we look for disputed and also select at total, which had a total of 14 disputed. So in this example, the stored procedure set counter accept one in out parameter counter and one in parameter inc. It increases the counter by the value of specified by the inc parameter. So we set a counter equals 1 and call the set counter 1, so it could be added 1 plus 1 plus so on, and we select a counter, then it gave us a result of 8, a total of 8 counter. That's all for me. Thank you. Next will be
Thank
reported
you.
by Jonzee.
Hello. Hello.
Go, Jods.
Hindi raw Bisaya ang tako.
Mas
Claro.
makasuko.
Klaro.
Pero man.
Klaro.
So, good afternoon sa tanan. Discuss ko sa stored function. Then, stored function is a special kind of stored program that returns a single value. Typically, use stored function to encapsulate common formulas or business rules that reusable amongst field statements or stored program. Una siya, ang stored function. Then is a syntax niya. The first one lang is mag-create a function, then function name. Then mag-set ka sa parameter niya. After wala. Masayip lang sa second, sa third o fourth. Very focus yung attention mo. Returns data type o deterministic. Third is mag-specify ka sa data type niya, ma-return niya. Specific man yung dapat siya. Then fourth kay deterministic o not deterministic. Insert na naman ang statement sa ubos sa meaning sa deterministic function. Pero sa kung ibisaya pa na siya deterministic kay same ang imong gibutang, same pod ang result. Dapat sa deterministic function ang not deterministic function kay any and para bitaw sa random ra sa ang ma-return. Pero imong gi-declare dito nga 40k then ubos sa 40k ang ma-return. Ang deterministic kay kung 40k imong gibutang 40k ra gid ang ma-return niya. Una siya deterministic o not deterministic. Pero kung di ka magbutangan ng duha automatic na siya dito. So, non-deterministic na siya. Wala siya. Then, if you don't use deterministic or not deterministic, automatic na siya nga not deterministic. Then, mag-return din kada yun. Mag-return statement. Kulang mong gulto sa return statement. Then, last, ang example. Kani siya nga example kay mag-return na siya sa yung credit niya. Actually, kay create function, customer level, customer name po na. Then, credit, dira niyo mo ibutang imuhang sana, imuhang value. Gusto nimo nga makitaan na. Then deterministic man siya, so type ka dara og credit is less than 50,000, then mo return siya sa specific na value na yung gibutang. Nakita lang sa next slide. Ano siya, create function. Then dari pag once ma-create ang function, noon wala man ko yung may SQL bench kalisod ko sa paggamit labtos. Kaya sa left side, diri yung makita ang katong mga customer level na yung create sa example. Then, diri din sa kaning SAMP PHP, may admin nakalimutan ko sa mga gamit, so di na ako ma-execute kayo. Then, last, pag-call nimo sa function in SQL statement, muna siya ang code na yung ibutang ladto para mag-call ka sa start function, select customer name, ana. Makita ba nimo din sa, makita ba akong cursor? Makita. Lang klaro.
Kita ba yun?
Makita ba? Zoom na ko. Sana mo sa poll ko ni siya, wala ang inyong ibutang. Bali mo ni siya inyong ibutang credit limit. Ang gawas ana niya is ang credits niya ang platinum, kung silver ba siya, pero by order or by in order siya kapag tawag, and naman may order by. So mo na siya, then kung magtawag ka, kung lain nga example pa na to kay paano din like ibutan mo customer level for 400k na 50k na. So po na dire sa example kay nasay pon si Sir ani 40k ra dapat na punta, pero nasa 400k above.
Sa'yo pag-suit ni Sir Jonzee.
Nasayap sa dani.
Dapat Jonzee.
Dali. Yung na-mistype na-mistype pa si Sir Gat. Na-mistype pa sa siya. Otong makita mo yung customer level ana. So, narin dali 400k. So, platinum siya. Kung ubos ko lang, kung nagtaon niyo mo sa food, sa zoom in. Kung magbutang ka doon, paro ba? Nara dari yapon above man siya sa kuan, above man siya sa 50k, so platinum to ni gawas. Pero kung ubos to siya, magawas ato is nara dari sa kuan gold, mas ubos pa gid to nara silver. Then ora to tanan ako ang report na ko. Thank you guys.
Same naman tag example Jonzee.
Same good. Wala namang nakalimot akong sa paggamit itong kay kuan itong para sa kuya.
Workbench.
Itong kuan, itong SQL. Pwede man magana ito.
Si Amiel kanang nag-install magid kag workbench ato ba? Ay katong imong gigamit ba?
Kuha na to, PHP may admin na to.
Pwede ra siya sa i-search lang sa browser.
Dapat mag-install kag SAMP.
Kaya tumugan na.
Pag mag-run na kag SAMP na rin sa browser din to ni may runs.
Ang database ato wala or naa.
Mo na ata to?
Mo naman to sa ang gatong kuan. Ang PJay
Sa browser na database naka-store? Okay.
Matik na. Pwede ra po ka dito mag-create. Pero nakalimot lagi kung saan po ito pag-ganap po ito.
Thank you kaayo ay wait ako sa stop recording.